everybody, and welcome to a very exciting episode of JayEmm Friends. Over the last couple of months, I've been doing a lot of talking about my journey back into the world of motorbiking. And today, we're going to be doing a little bit more talking, but also for the first time on a YouTube channel of any description, I am also going to be riding a motorbike. And it's a very special one. So, first up, let's introduce you to that. So, for those who are not familiar, this is a Triton, which was a very popular thing back in the 1960s, and essentially it is half Triumph and half Norton. The theory was that back in the day, Norton produced the finest handling motorbikes and Triumph produced the best engines, and the engineering and design is so simple that to combine the two doesn't really take that much at all. Many Tritons you'll have seen are what we know as a cafe racer, associated often with the Ace Cafe over in London. So they'll have the fancy seats that go up like this, the lower handlebars, and the idea was you should get your motorbike to the point where it'll easily do 100 miles an hour. This bike is special for a couple of reasons. First off, it is about as basic as a Triton could possibly be. It's very literally a 1960 or thereabouts Norton slimline featherbed framed Dominator 88 with a Triumph Tiger T110 engine in it. And that's about it. But what makes this bike more special is that it belongs to my grandfather. He got it in the mid-1960s, and we know for sure that in 1967 it was a Triton, and that may have been the year that it was built. Grandad rode this bike to work as a teenager in the late 1960s and then throughout the 1970s. It was eventually semi-retired in the early 1980s, but I do know that in the 90s he made an effort to try and use it again. It was last MOT'd back in 1995, and then unfortunately in 1999 he passed away. I sort of wound up inheriting it, but for the last sort of 2.5 decades it simply sat at the back of my garage going nowhere, until last year I finally decided that I wanted to see it back on the road, and so it was sent to a lovely chap called Simon over at the Hangar Motorcycle Company, who did a thorough recommissioning. The mission brief for me was that I wanted it to look essentially like Grandad's old bike, and so all of the patina has been preserved where possible. The only bit of the bike that had to be completely redone was the seat, as that was completely and totally gone. Mechanically, we've done an awful lot. So the engine has been rebuilt, the tyres are new, the brakes are new, the shocks are new, all sorts of stuff has been done to it. But the idea was that it still looks kind of how it has for the last sort of 30 years or so. I did actually initially have plans to try and bring you all along for the very first ride on the bike. Then it dawned on me that considering the fact I've never actually ridden it at all, and I haven't ridden any bike really for the last 5 or 6 years, maybe that wasn't the best idea. And that turned out to be exactly the case, because there were a number of issues with it, which I documented in a previous video, and I got about 500 yards down the road, turned around, and that took about half an hour. Subsequently, I worked out what the issues were, and they were half the bike, half me. I have then taken it out on one more run to put some fuel in it, which went much, much better. So today is not the first ride, it's the sort of second proper one, and for this I intend to bring it all along and hopefully share what it is that I love about not just this bike, but biking in general. But to bring you along does mean that we have to rig up a motorbike with cameras, and that's not something I have actually ever done. And so we would invite all of you watching now to be willing participants in this little experiment of us. Think of this as being a bit behind the scenes, because we're going to chuck a few cameras on as and where we can. And yes, I've watched lots of other bike videos and all that sort of stuff, but I'm a difficult so-and-so. I want to do this my way, and we'd love to have all your feedback on it. It might go well, it might go terribly, but in any case, you're stuck with us. So enjoy. So basically, thing with the bike, there is nowhere to suction mount to that bike at all, but because it has a traditional frame on it, we can clamp to it. That's what we're going to try and do. Interesting. So I think I want at least one forward, one backwards, and I want one camera rigged on me. I think we might borrow Ant's Insta360, is it the X3?
Yep.
Put that there, because that will give us a sort of all-round view, maybe even tilt it over a little bit. Or one camera here, probably one of the Sony action cams, and that'll be facing up towards me. And then I am gonna get a chest mount on. But to do that, I need to gear up. So yeah, that's next for me.
So one of the things that we're trying out at some point is one of these, an Insta360 X3. Basically goes on this pole here and allows you to see a perspective on the bike that you wouldn't normally otherwise see. I'll try and give you a shot. I'll just record that actually so you can see. That's going to be one of the shots that James is going to have to try at some point. Right, so what's this contraption, James?
So this contraption, which I bought from a local after dark accessories merchant, is a chest mount. And kind of does what it says in the tin. So basically lets me rig a camera to my chest. The popular thing to do for filming motorbike stuff is to rig to your chin. Basically stick a GoPro mount right here. I'm not a big fan of the idea of that, because I'm just not so sure what would happen if you fell off basically and you caught it. Although some tests say you'd be absolutely fine, some tests say bad day for everyone. I mean, I'm not intended to fall off, but I also don't like the look of it. I don't like the aesthetics of when you're looking back at the biker of seeing this dirty great big camera here. So instead I'm going to have a dirty great big camera here, and we're actually going to use a different type of camera to what most people would. So ordinarily you'd be using a sort of action cam or a, you know, GoPro, which actually I like these action cams, but this is the one scenario where the shape of them works against me. So I'm going to be trying something a little bit different and using this little Sony and rig it here because it gets a little bit more flush to me. It's just going to be different. We're experimenting today, so we're about ready to go. I guess the only thing to talk about is the lovely bike kit, what I am wearing. So there's some Dainese biker boots, JTS Kevlar lined and armour plated bits, which the armour is a little bit low, but when you get on the bike I can hoist it into place and it works. Got a Frank Thomas fabric jacket, and the one bit of the, well, I've got these Halversons leather gloves, I think they're Halversons, and my Arai lid, which no longer has gloves stored in it because everyone told me off for putting my gloves in my helmet. So yeah, right, we're gonna get the cameras rolling. I'm gonna get biking. Right, are we basically ready? Then, so here we go, and full disclosure, this is the second attempt at filming this bit. The first didn't go all that well. The audio actually came out surprisingly okay, and with luck you'll be able to hear me right about now, but the camera bits didn't go so well. This little mount here, this chest mount, I think you want it more like that, and I think it's pointing too far down. Might have replicated that problem today. If I have, sorry about that. This camera down here, I think today I might have just about got it, but yeah, you couldn't see anything. And then the third and final camera at the back, the little 360, well, that got a view that, let's just say, even my OnlyFans page wouldn't pay for. So yeah. Anyway, on to the business of riding Grandad's bike. It's a fabulous machine. I absolutely love it. Now you have to do this because there's no indicators. More worryingly, no rear view mirrors, and that's honestly the most daunting part of riding this, is I've got no idea if somebody is behind me, getting really frustrated with how slow I am. I need to adjust some of these controls. This brake lever over here seems to be sort of twisting round, so I'll do that at some point, but I can still just about get to it. The throttle's nice. I mean, it's a little bit sort of jittery. The ride is not exactly composed by modern standards. The tyres, of course, are a lot newer than they were, but even so they've still retained at the back, certainly, a little bit of that squared off profile that old bike tyres have, so they're not a nice smooth radius.
So when you sort of tip into a bend, you really feel it as a moment where it goes bleh, and you're on the side, which is a little disconcerting, but you do get used to it. In any case, we're still running the bike in, but it'll get up to the speed limit reasonably happily. It seems best at 45, 50 mile an hour, but that might be partly me. Obviously only the 4 gears, so, and no rev counters, I've got no idea what it'll go to, what it'll do. Allegedly, these are about 40 horsepower, I think. Very difficult to find actual numbers on them. Of course, the big one that people talked about was the top speed. 110 mile an hour, this engine. Grandad always said that this bike was good for the ton, but Dad was never sort of quite certain about that. They went out, I think the last time this bike probably rode in anger with Grandad on it. My dad had an RD400 he just rebuilt in the yellow Kenny Roberts replica colours, which I really like as a colour scheme. And yeah. Other than the fact I'm always terrified that there's somebody behind me getting angry with me, this is a really peaceful, serene place to spend some time. It's one of the things I've just really loved about being back on a bike, is it's just an opportunity to have, you know, yourself, your thoughts, the machine, the road, you know, it just all comes together. And you've got to always be thinking about machine and road, you can never ignore that. One of the other issues, of course, is the fact that the brake light is only operated by the rear brake, which is also on the wrong side, like the gear lever. Now, on the same side, they're both on the wrong side, so on a normal bike, gear shifter is on the left, the brake is on the right, or rear brake is on the right. Here, it's the other way around, so the gear shifter is on the right and the rear brake is on the left. Using the rear brake more often than I normally would does mean at least the brake light is illuminated, so I feel a little bit better about all of that. It's just a nice place to be, this. It's just, you know, calm. It's a beautiful day. Quite lucky, really, the weather of late, despite the fact we're going into autumn now. It's been glorious. Absolutely wondrous. And, you know, I might have time to get to a meet or two, probably not too many. My aim next year, you know, I want to slowly start doing a few more miles on the bike here and there. It needs to have its running in service, which I need 2 more trips out maybe. I think it'll be just about there for the running in, and we'll give it a good check over. And then it should be fine. But, you know, this has been so special. To be able to get back on this bike, just to see it running again, and to hear it running for the first time in like a quarter of a century is just magnificent. The gearbox actually is a little bit better as well than I probably gave it credit for in some of my early videos. It's a little bit weird, and sometimes you don't know when you've got into first, but eventually you get there. Oh, it doesn't look like I've got anyone behind me. I can't quite do a 180 on this, I'm not that dexterous. There we go, that is first, I think. Careful over the loose stuff. Oh, yeah, turn around, yep, we've got visibility, whee! And back we go! Oh, this is just what a nice way to get about the countryside this is. It's so sedate. At some point, I do want to get a few other people riding this bike, because I'd love to see it in action myself, and that would be really, really nice. But today's an experiment. Well, the other day was an experiment, and the ride before, which you were never going to see, was an experiment, but thus far I think we've got to call this overall a successful one. So I really just have one thing to say, which is, from the bottom of my heart, a massive, huge, jumbo-sized thank you to everybody that's been watching the channel, both of them, particularly though those that have been watching the bike content and have really sort of helped, you know, inspire me to get back on 2 wheels and to feel like it's the right thing and really, really enjoy it. Because that's the thing, isn't it? There's absolutely no point doing it if you're not going to enjoy it. It's one of those things. We all know it carries an element of risk. But every time I get on this bike, I'm reminded of the fact that I have the bike and I don't have the person that owned it. But I'm also reminded of why he loved the bikes and why he loved this bike. And to be able to preserve that memory and his memory is a wonderful thing. And I'm really, really glad that, you know, life has given me the opportunity where I can do it. So yeah, that really is all I've got to say for today.
So there we have it, everybody. That is a bit of a rough and ready video, I know, but like I said earlier, it's as much technical experiment anyway. And regardless of however much that you could or couldn't hear or see, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody for tuning in and being a part of this journey and really spurring me on to getting back onto two wheels. And if you're watching this and you've liked it and you haven't yet subscribed, which I know is the case for many of you, please hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to all of us involved in the channel, and I promise we'll get better at this bike filming nonsense. I swear. Anyway, I'll see you all for the next one. Bye-bye.